Man City's next Premier League game is at the City Ground, where they will take on fellow top four hopefuls Nottingham Forest on Saturday lunchtime. It's third versus fourth. Forest are in third at the moment, just 1 point ahead of City in fourth. Now this is a tricky fixture on paper for City. Or Forest have
Hmm.
made themselves difficult to beat at home. They've lost, I think, just two at the City Ground in the Premier League this season, but they did have a bad day at the office when they travelled to the Etihad. City won 3-0 in early December, and I think that was a sort of strange result, really, considering City's
At the
form
time, yeah.
towards the end of last year was a surprise win, if you like, for City, and how convincingly they won really against a good Forest side. Um, so that result will give City some confidence in heading into Saturday's game, but it's still a tough game. So what are you expecting from this top four battle with Forest, Stephen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going back to that game at the time. Once again, the team feels different to them. That was Kanji. Um, Diazake Vardiel back, which was the treble, essentially a treble-esque. No Walker Vardiel there instead. We had Gundogan, Grealish was in midfield for that game. De Bruyne was there as the 10, Doku, Bernardo out wide, and Haaland. The team once again feels very different. But Forest's form actually isn't that great. Even though they're in third, in normal time they've only won one of the last six games, and a nil-nil draw against Arsenal is no shame in that. But they did lose away to Newcastle 4-3. They lost to Fulham 2-1 away before that. They only got past Exeter in the FA Cup on penalties. Um, they did batter Brighton 7-0, but before they lost to Bournemouth 5-0 as well. So their form is very patchy right now. It's not, this isn't a third place in the league form, where they're currently standing. So I suspect, as good as they have been this season, we're not, approaching Forest at their very best, where they were beating sides, and it felt like week in week out. When I'm looking at every one of the results there, like after they lost to City, they beat United, they beat Villa, they beat Brentford, they beat Tottenham, they beat Everton, they beat Wolves, they beat Luton, and then they drew against Liverpool. There's like seven wins in a row there, no competitions. They were absolutely on fire. This isn't that side right now. Look, there is still clearly ability there. They've got a lot of talent. The defensive partnership of Milinkovic and Murillo have been an absolute revelation. Anderson behind Gibbs White midfield has been brilliant too, and Chris Wood has been the most clinical finisher in the Premier League, which is crazy to say, but it's statistically true. Aina and Williams get forward really well. Then you got the pace and the skill out wide of Alanga and Hudson-Odoi. It's a fantastically organised side. It's functional. Everyone knows their roles really well, and for a large part of what defines City season, they've been the opposite for us. City were unorganised, they were unstructured. There was a lack of responsibility and roles. There was no physicality or pace, and there was people running on empty. Whereas Forest have had this cohesive, settled unit, and they've lent into it all season. I am still confident for this game. I think the thing that makes me confident is I think City are on the up. I think Forest will start to feel the jitters a little bit of this Champions League push. It's a big ask for them. And the form, in my opinion, started to show that, they don't feel quite as convincing as they were. Doesn't mean they can't beat City. They probably will score. But I think it's fair to say this isn't the Forest side of 2 months ago, 3 months ago, where they were incredibly hard to beat or score against, because you can get at them right now. Um, and the main difference for me as well, why I'm excited, is that, look, usually I'm a firm believer, like, a game every 3 or 4 days for an elite side is actually a good thing. I think that heightening of the senses and keeping you going, I think City in the past have thrived on that when we won all four domestic trophies, or we won, the treble or whatever. I quite like it. I think it keeps you going and everyone's focused. But right now, the one thing, with that expectation is not there anymore. I think City actually probably do need time on the training ground, and we're going to have a week to prepare. And Guardiola said we can have 4 good training sessions. Must be so refreshing for Guardiola to not just oversee recovery sessions and the odd tactical video session. Now he's going to have time on the training ground to work on the patterns and work on individuals, and actually get to know these new lads who've come in as well, and try new ideas. And I can't wait to see Guardiola get essentially the time that he never gets anymore to do some training and coaching, what he used to get in preseason, for example, and work on the players, and really hone the positive traits that he's seen from the new signing. So yeah, I'm actually going into this game pretty optimistic. I think the combination of Forest's form dipping a tiny bit, City having time to rest some players, and of course some were rested at the weekend against Plymouth. So we've got the new signings done well. Like Kusan had an entire weekend off, for example. Don't know what he was doing, but just lauding in his success, I guess. But these guys are going to be ready. They're going to be coached, and I think we're in an opportune moment to sort of strike. I know it is away from home, and Forest are great there, but I think City are going to go into this side feeling confident because our form is good. Theirs has been a little bit up and down, but we're going to have players that are rested for once and coached for once, and they're all going to pretty confident. Even people like De Bruyne, who's not been great recently. Grealish had a good game against Plymouth as well. The squad feels pretty settled. It feels bigger. A bit more rested. Not these injuries, of course, the centre backs. But I think we're going into this in a pretty good place. So I'm feeling pretty confident.
Excuse me. In terms of the lineup, do you think many changes we made? Obviously, you made 11 changes against Plymouth, so a lot of those first team players, like Haaland, for example, expect them to come back in.
Yeah, of course. I mean, look at the bench. You can see the ones who are going to play. Diaz, Haaland, Nico, Gonzalez. I mean, Edison, Vardiel, Savinho, Marmoush, Doku. Pretty much all these are going to start. Maybe Nunes as well. I thought Nunes was good actually against Spurs. An electric left-sided attack for Spurs. Odobert and Udogie and Spence at times all running it aggressively. Even though I don't think Nunes is a great fullback, credit where it is, he was really good that day. So there's a good chance they all come back into the side, especially with the pace. Forest down their left flank with Hudson Odoi or Williams getting forward. So yeah, I think there's a good chance you see pretty much all of them. If I was to guess a side right now, Edison, maybe Nunes or Rico, but I would say probably Nunes given their pace. Kusanov, Ruben Diaz, Josko Vardiel. I would expect you'd see Kovacic was totally rested the weekend too. So Kovacic and Nico Gonzalez. And then after that, I don't know the wingers. Savino is almost certainly going to start, but probably Doku because he's deserved it. Then you got Haaland, and then one of Marmoush or Phil Foden or De Bruyne. So I mean we're in a good place right now. There are actually options to change things up, and yeah, and I think the players are going to be fresh as I was saying, so that'll lean into it an awful lot.